Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, and this is my tips and tricks guide to Kollector. So our boy the Kollector, he got some big buffs in the patch. A lot of things changed for him, right? So in this guide, what I'm going to be doing here, I'm going to be going everything from the most basics to advanced concepts here. So we're going to go over the basic moveset. I'm going to be talking about, what's good for his moves, what's good for his variations, resets, restands, and all points in between, right? So there are timestamps in the video description. I highly suggest you use them if you want to skip around. And without any further ado, let's just get started with what are his special moves. Now, let's just talk about his basic specials here before we get into anything else. So the variations are what really breathe life to the character, but obviously we have a base move set to work with. And our first special move is the Demonic Mace, which is back forward 2. Now, this move got buffed in the patch. It's faster startup. And I gotta tell you, it's of limited use. I'm not gonna say never use it, but its use is still... it's not great. Let's just be real here. It's not a great move here. So for what it is, obviously it hits from very far away. That part's excellent. It's also mid, so you're not going to duck it. That part is also excellent. But the thing is, it's just slow. Now, you can also hold the move. And the more you hold it, it gets better on block if they do happen to block it, that kind of stuff. And at full charge, yes, it is indeed a crushing blow. But it's just slow for what it is. If you're going to be chasing around here, threatening with this kind of stuff here, you'd be much better served trying to threaten with, stand 4-4, that kind of stuff here. And yes, it does have more range, but as long as you're in spare change especially, you have much more options at a range than that. So it's all right to do every now and then, say, a block string. So say you go for, like, forward 1-2-2, right? And then you can do forward 1-2-2. Back 1-2 and just try to steal a turn or something like that, right? And in that regard, it's okay for the occasional turn steal, but keep in mind as well, if someone hits the button immediately afterwards, they're still going to hit you because it has a decent amount of startup, right? So this move, I guess I'm not going to talk it up too much more. It just isn't that great. It's okay for sometimes. I'll leave it up to your discretion. Obviously, the range is pretty good. Hit from roughly that far away, right? But it's easily seeable, it's easily jumpable, and they can full combo you, all kind of fun stuff. And other than that, not much to talk about. So our next move is a very important one. You're going to be using it a lot as it's a very standard combo ender, and that is the Shotel Fury. Also, if you're not a Kollector player, apparently this move is somewhat rage-inducing, as apparently it takes forever. I play Kollector, so like for me it's fine, right? But I've had more rage quits off this move than any other move, just so you know. But yeah, so it does this damage. It dumps you 19 frames of advantage, which is certainly not bad. If you want to press your luck, you can certainly dash in, and if you don't want to press your luck, it does actually leave you at a reasonable distance, as we can see here. So if you don't wish to press your luck, you actually just walk back a step and then just like pressure with 4-4. And if they try to wake up 2 or up 3, unless they're like Garrison or up 2 reaches like forever away, they're generally going to whiff and you're going to smack them in the noggin and you get a free combo, right? So that is a low risk, high reward option you have. And of course you can still just, run forward, hit buttons, pressure, threaten with a throw, that kind of stuff, right? So no matter what you got to work with, it's pretty dang decent. The next move we have here is the Bola. Now this is a very solid move. This is a cornerstone move really, as it is, your combo extender. As you can see here, you can get them and smack them, all that fun stuff, right? So the EX enhanced version of the Bola creates a capture state where you can hit the enemy, and they have to accept what's going to happen next. Now, that's where you're going to see it a lot of the time, but actually has some use for just by itself as a move, right? So, first and foremost, so if it hits, you can see here, it does 7.5% damage here. The second hit is unblockable. Now, there is a little thing to this. So, if you're in that fireball war, you're just both full screen, you're just both hucking stuff at each other and all that kind of stuff. If Kollector gets hit out of the Bola before he does his arm raise here and does the extra hit, what's going to happen is you're going to get the EX version of Bola basically for free. And you can do whatever you want after that. The EX version of the Bola basically stops him from doing the follow-up. That guy right there. So if you're in that war where you're just trading with each other and you get smacked, then you say you can do your Bola and immediately, chuck a vial on him or something like that if you were playing in the spare change variation. So depending on the variation you are in, no matter what variation, it is always your combo extender, no matter what, right? You're always going to use it for combo extendings, and that's fantastic. But if you happen to be in the spare change variation, it also becomes a very viable part of your zoning game, where you're actively looking to get hit out of your move. You do not want to finish it, so you can then set up a DOT by their feet and then keep up the pressure. And for that, the move is fantastic. So you'll always have use no matter what variation you are in. But in spare change, the more quote-unquote zoning variation, it's all the better and stronger yet. So the fourth of our special moves here, the base special moves without any variations, is the Relic Absorb. And to be honest with you, while I was doing prep for this video, I totally forgot this move existed. It's the least useful of all your special moves, no matter what variation you're picking. So ideally, the point of the move is do this, and you absorb it, right? You don't get anything out of this. Like, like a lot of moves you think like, oh, you absorb the move, right? Oh, you'll gain bar or health or something. Like, no, you don't get a dang thing out of this. You might as well jump it or block or something, right? Because it also has quite a bit of startup. So doing it as a reactionary move will often get you counter hit out of it because the move is just too slow. Now, after you absorb it, you can enhance it. And you'll send out this little projectile, and it will clash with other projectiles, unlike many other in this game where normally they'll just bypass each other. So it's more like a Street Fighter style projectile. But it doesn't really last all that long in and of itself. So as you can see it go across, and it's done with. So it's certainly not a thing to like you can just really walk them down or something with the threat of that behind them, right? It has some mild use if they're like kind of walking you down and you're in the corner, as it will certainly deter them at least for a hot minute. You know, not too long. Honestly, this move is just not very good. Now, I'm not gonna say forget about it, but you know what? I forgot about it, honestly, and I'm doing okay for myself, right? So maybe if you know some hot tip about it, I don't know, please put in the comments below. But of every move I'm going to cover in this guide, this is easily the least effective and least useful of everything. So now let's talk the competitive tournament variations he has. So we have spare changes back in the pack, and right now let's talk about spare change. So this is the quote-unquote zoning variation. Now, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a zoning variation, as zoning precludes you're going to win through, your range options, which you won't. But it does supplement his game plan very well. And in this, you get the grenade here. This is the bag bomb. So bag bomb comes in two flavors, close and far shot, and you choose. You have to aim which one. But it is not one of the ones where you aim where you have like 3 or 4 options. It is either this range or just full screen. And you can also do it in the air, as you can see here. Now, one thing about it. Now, obviously, as far as projectiles goes, it's certainly not the fastest, right? Compared to some of the better ones in the game, it has some travel time, all that fun stuff. But what it is barely ever negative on block up close. So say the enemy blocks it, right? And they're going to block everything here, and we'll hit it from roughly this far away. It's only -4. Like, a lot of the better projectiles in the game from this close would be like -15 to like -30, right? So you're still completely fine. And more to the point, if you are actually far away, a lot of the projectiles in the game when you're far away then become like -10 or something, right? If you're far away and this hits, you're plus. That's a plus 19 on block, right? So you recover 19 frames before they do at full screen distance. And much the same applies here, say if you want to do an aerial one here. That one I got 20 frames of advantage, right? So you are stupid advantage every time they block a grenade from full screen or further away, right? And if you do happen to do it from closer, then hey, that's still +1 right there, right? So you can set up a lot of stuff where, like, if you block an aerial grenade and I immediately go for Ebola, I am so plus that if you blocked and you let go and you try to jump the bola, you'll actually find yourself getting caught by the bola a lot of the time, right? So that's part of the strength. And of course, now let's talk about the other strength, which is the Vial of Sorrow, aka DOT, damage over time, or I just call it the puddle. And yeah, it's a damage over time puddle. So very similar to Aaron Black, except Aaron Black's is better. But while you're in it, you'll take damage over time. Now, the patch did change this, and in my opinion, for the worse. So it does last twice as long, but now it doesn't do as much damage per tick. I did prefer the way it was before, where it wasn't as long, but it did all of its damage faster. But still, you can do it in the air, and it's a fantastic counter zoning tool, because if they throw their projectile, you can just go jump and go, nope, take your guaranteed damage. And then, of course, they got to scramble out of it, and that's when you can try to catch them, right? So this is a very good screen control variation, if I had to say anything about it. Now, let's talk about the back in the pack variation. So, what comes with this? Well, we have the up mace, which is down back 2, and it's very similar to back forward 2, this kind of mace here. It is a little bit quicker. Comes at 24 frame startup rather than the 29 frame startup as the regular one. And it's obviously angled upwards. And you can hold it too for more damage, all that kind of fun stuff, just like the other one, right? But that said, it's still not an amazing move. Since it does come out faster, you can definitely catch people with it. And in a situation where you're kind of mildly close, it is harder to jump than, say, the back 4-2 to be sure. So if you're in this kind of situation here, we're just doing like back 1 into your up mace as like a little bit of a block string. That works, that's fine. But still, just like many things, it's a little iffy on its use. It is very susceptible to breathing hitboxes and like moving hitboxes while people walk forward, because if they hunch forward a little bit while they walk forward, then it makes it a lot more prone to miss at distances other than quite close. But that said, it's very safe on block, because even if they do block at point blank, there's a lot of pushback and negative 14, which for the most part is safe at this range against the bulk of the cast. And obviously the further out you are out, the more and more safe it gets, right? It's a lot better than the regular mace, that is for sure. It's a lot better move, but due to the startup, due to some of the pitfalls and hitbox issues, it's still a bit iffy. But once again, it's certainly better than the base move. Now, where things start getting a little bit more interesting is, hey, he's got a teleport in this variation. It's on a little bit on the slower end as far as teleports go, but still, I can go from here to here, or, from here to there. Now, the fire teleport, just so you know, it was actually nerfed, but all the fire teleports were nerfed in the patch, so a couple more frames got added to it. And as always with fire teleports here, so teleports that don't leave you beside the enemy, it will take a defensive bar. As you can see here on my bar end here, every time I go for this, I will lose 1 defensive bar. So you gotta make the call for yourself if that's worth it, but usually if you need the spacing, it's definitely worth it. But yeah, so it does all the things, a teleport should do. Hey, I get past your projectile, I'm in your face, now you gotta deal with that, all that fun stuff, right? And also has a bit of a pressure reset, which we will talk about later in the video. And to me, anyways, the best thing about this variation is it does have a command grab. So once again, if you're unfamiliar with the term, it is a special grab that you cannot tech. You cannot get out of it. If it touches you, you have to accept the damage. So the damage itself is a bit on the lower end. You see 129, which is actually lower than a base throw. But unlike a base throw, you can't get out of it, right? It is also 10 frame startup, just the same as a base throw. And the biggest thing I gotta say about this is, hey, it's a mid. Unlike many command throws in this game, if the enemy is ducking, you can't throw them. And Kollector says, nah, I got you. This is a mid hitting throw. No big deal. So no ducking, no none of that, right? So as far as that goes, that's a big feather in this cap here, because there's very few mid-hitting command throws in this game, and he's got one of them, and it is just fantastic in that regard. Now, real quick before we do get to the rest of the guide, I want to talk about just which variation do I think is better. Kollector, I think, has been unfairly maligned for much of the game's life, even after the patch where he got buffed, as a very bad character, and I'm going to say a solid 9 out of 10 times or more. When people say he's a bad character, he's being used in the back in the pack variation. That's the one with the teleport and the command grab, right? And in my personal opinion, the spare change, that's the one with the grenades and the DOTs, is markedly superior to back in the pack. The thing about it here, and why I think it's the better variation, is it gives you screen control, which the other one just simply does not. You are a threat in that variation outside of this range. You're a threat here. You're a threat here. You can harass over here. No, and Ebola becomes a lot more useful in conjunction with the grenades and the DOTs, as well as the zoning tool. And obviously he has a lot of good normals, which we'll get into, and that'll be in the next section, right? He has a mountain of good normals, a mountain of good footsie stuff here. So it lets him be a complete character at all points in the screen. He also gets a bunch of unique restands and resets in this variation that are better than the ones offered in back in the pack, in my opinion. And yeah, it really works. So if you were to give him a try, I would suggest giving spare change a try first. Obviously, play what you want, right? Play what you want. But To me, Kollector is a complete character in the spare change variation, as he is a threat everywhere on the screen. At no point can you not have to deal with Kollector. And the fact that spare change offers some awkward and weird zoning, like, hey, no, he's certainly not the only character in the game with an air fireball, right? But he's the only one in the game that can hit you from this far away. A lot of characters have to be like roughly here to smack you, right? And Kollector says no. Even from full screen, I can guarantee 1 tick of damage on you, right? I can jump over your thing and toss a DOT on you, and you have to groove on my damage when I don't have to respect yours. And of course, then they get frustrated, they get in, and then they have to deal with your mid-range when your mid-range is probably better than theirs because you're Kollector and you have all sorts of amazing footsie normals and all that kind of stuff. So in my opinion, spare change is the way to go. Alright, let's talk the notable normals, and my lordy Kollector is full of them. Some of them are so good, they're going to get their own sections later in the video as well. But let's just talk about some of the basic ones here. So first up and foremost here is forward 1-2. So forward 1-2 is a very basic hit confirm, higher than average damage hit confirm as well here, as you can see with 85 damage. And yeah, you got a lot of time to determine if you got your hit or not, right? And just go from there. Basic combo would be like, hey, you got 4-1-2. Oh, cool, I hit EX Bola, do your combo, right? Fantastic. Now, the move also has some follow-ups. So if you do your forward 1-2, you can actually follow up with an overhead or a low. And this is effectively unfuzzyable, as in fuzzy guard, mix up here. The moves hit with a 1-frame differential, so it's going to be very difficult to, like, say, oh, I can definitely block one and block the other and get both at the same time. Honestly, see, you hear someone say that, they're a liar. Not possible. But yeah, so if you get blocked, you're still safe. You're -7, right? You're still safe, right? But you probably have that thing like, well, I'm going to get them. They blocked my thing, but now it's time for the 50-50, right? Now, keep in mind, if they block, you are done for. You're -15. No matter what you do here, you are gonna get got, right? And the damage they can do to you versus the damage you did to them, if you actually did successfully get the overhead or low, is definitely skewed in their favor. But if you are the kind of person that just can't accept the fact that they block your move and you want to keep the pressure on, hey, that's an option. Another fantastic hit confirm string is 4-2-2, this guy right here. So there's a couple things to notice about it here. So 4-2-2, you might notice here 58 is not as much damage as 4-1-2, right? 4-1-2 does more damage here, and they hit like at roughly comparable ranges. The one thing to note here is if you hit 4-1-2 at max range, it's not going to combo into Bola. However, at max range, 4-2-2 will always combo into Bola. So if you're like actually just fishing in footsie's neutral distance here, and you're not actually anywhere close to the enemy, I would highly, highly, highly suggest you always go for 4-2-2, as you'll always be able to get your hit confirm and your full combo from there, versus the forward 1 is not as reliable at a max range, because forward 1 at max range, you're not going to combo into the Bola, right? And you'll drop your combo. Now, it's not to say you couldn't convert, right? You can still go in the Shodel from there, but it's not as big of a deal. It's not as big of a thing, you know. So, Shodel is just basically the consolation prize for using a 4-1 from full range, right? Versus you always get the full combo and way more damage from 4-2-2 in the end. So, if you're not close, I would suggest 4-2-2 is the way to go. Also, if you do 4-2-2, 1+3, or otherwise known as 4-2-2 and your throw button, you will do a follow-up here. So he will like Ultimate Warrior Gorilla Press you and switch sides. So if you're ever in a middle combo that uses 4-2-2, you can actually use this and always make sure you switch sides. Also, it's a risky way to do it, but it's also a decent turn steal. So if you condition enemy, I often see like if you get 4-2-2, you go for your combo, and if not, you just stop attacking and you block, right? Every now and then, if you go for the throw afterwards and they try to take their turn, you actually will grab them and chuck them. And hey, it's a little gimmicky, sure, but just take it when you can get it. Forward 4 is a very good hit confirm starter as well. As you can see here, 2 hits here, plenty enough time to see if you want to go into Bull or not. And the thing you might notice here is it does so much more damage than everything else here. It's almost 100 damage by itself, so compared to, you know, forward 1-2 or forward 2-2, the damage is very high. Also, the range is very high. It hits from a range the other guys just simply cannot hit from. Now, you might be wondering, well, wow, this is so awesome. Why would I do anything but that, right? Well, you see here, it's -14 on block, right? You can mitigate it by using it basically at the right distance. So negative 14 a block from this far away is not necessarily death against 99% of the cast here. You definitely lost your turn. But once again, if you're also fighting a character that doesn't necessarily have long-range buttons, you can still walk backwards a little bit or something like that. But if you do that up close, you know, you're done like dinner, so watch out. So you always want to use this move at the range of the move, you know, not any closer to be sure. Otherwise, you will get smacked. But this is your most damaging starter for a hit confirmable starter, and the range is really good, so just keep it in mind. Just don't ever try to do it too close unless you really believe in the hit. Another very interesting string you should always keep in mind is back 1 and its follow-ups. So what's really good about this here, back 1, as you see, it creates a little bit of a green fire deal here. There is no hurt box on there, so Kollector is safely behind the wall of the green fire he's putting out, right? So if you want to hit Kollector, you actually have to hit Kollector. It's not like many normals in this game where, like, because you extended your arms, you yourself can be hit, right? Or something like that, right? He is safely behind this. And also, back 1 has a follow-up with back 1, 2, 2. This is a can string. There's no nothing you can follow up with. Back 1 itself is special cancelable, but none of the other follow-ups to it. Now, the interesting thing about this is, say if the enemy is blocking and you go for the whole string, the only first hit comes out on block, right? So it's negative 11, which is not maybe ideal, perhaps, but at the range you want to use that at, once again, it's pretty safe. Also, it has a good bit of pushback, as you can see here. But yeah, you can just enter 1, 2, 2, back 1, 2, 2, that is. And as you can see here, nothing comes out, right? So if they stop blocking, I get it just fine. Not a big deal, right? So it's a quick little 14% you can get. And also, once again, please remember that you can special cancel into it. So stuff like back 1 mace is a thing, back 1 grenade, that kind of stuff, back 1 up mace. It's a very good counter poke, basically, because once again, you can walk backwards, toss this out, and unless they're actually physically hitting you, there's nothing for them to hit. That green fire occupies quite a large space, as you can see here. The range is on the edge of that, and that's not nothing. That's pretty good, right? So it's a really good counter footsies tool where you back up, you know, they can extend, and then you just smack them and go from there. And in that, it's a fantastic move. Now, back 3 is a very interesting move. A lot of moves in this game, you know, they move you forward, you know, like, hey, I'm trying to hit the enemy here, so I'm going to go forward momentum towards the enemy. And this one's like, nah, I'm just going to move backwards. So there's a couple uses for this move. First and foremost, it is kind of designed as like a anti-pressure / anti-jumping move. As you can see here, the hitbox does hit quite high up here. And if I am anything less than like pretty much beside the enemy, I can't hit them standing up close, right? The second part of the move will miss a standing opponent if you do it from, you know, the distance you think you should do it at. But in that regard, it is very good against jumps. It's very good against people just walking you down, right? And you don't necessarily trust yourself to hit them, or like they'll get you, or they'll jump at you a split second, all that kind of stuff. And this move is basically just an anti-pressure move. Now, once again here in the spare change variation, this move gets a lot more valuable as the first hit is special cancelable, and you can special cancel into a grenade. So it works still in the same, everything I just said works that way. Anti-walk down, anti-pressure, anti-jump, all that fun stuff. But you also get the benefit of having grenade toss in there, right? So if they're walking you down and you do manage to smack them, then you can walk forward and pressure them because you have large hit advantage after a grenade. If they do jump, well then the grenade will probably miss, but whatever, you still knocked them out of the air. It did its job in that regard still. But yeah, it's just a really good just anti-pressure move. Like, you don't want to deal with what they're putting out here and they're walking you down menacingly and you don't know what they're going to pull. This works out great. And also, say the move miss, the grenade doesn't come out, you still get the secondary follow-up hit, right? So if somehow the first hit were to miss and then they dash forward, the second hit will still smack them in the face. Many moves in this game are tailored around aggression, and this is one of the few moves that's like more of a defensive style move where you'll gain space backwards. If you whiff this move, it's basically 2-0 consequence, because once again, you're moving backwards, right? And while you're moving backwards, you're putting out hitboxes, hitting people that would normally be chasing you forward. So for, say, whatever reason they're chasing forward, but both missed, you still have the backwards momentum, backwards spacing gain. There's not really anything anyone can really do about it. So a great move to stop aggressive players all around. So the last thing I'll talk about in this section here before we get to the normals that deserve their own section is stand 1-3. So stand 1-3 is kind of like, you know, just a basic hit confirm. Like, oh, cool, hit. And then if it hits, I can go into a combo and all that fun stuff, right? And in that regard, it's certainly serviceable. He is unfortunately does have an 8-frame stand jab, not a 7-framer like some characters, but still, whatever, you know. It does what it has to do, and it's a good hit confirm, right? Now, if we go back to blocking, as here, it's -2 on block. A lot of hit confirm combos are like -5, -7, like the other ones we have here for Kollector, that kind of stuff here. It's really, really good, right? And with that in mind, he also has a turn steal built in because he has 1-3-1. So if you build the enemy's, you know, just knowledge of the move enough to the point where like, oh, that's just hit confirm, and you know he's barely negative, he still might dare to hit a button afterwards, right? But he's still negative, so like it's quote unquote my turn. I could try to down one him or something like that, right? Well, since it has the follow up here, and it does take a hot second to get the follow up started, it's not easily canned string. It's like a staggerable string. If they do try to take their turn immediately after that 1-3. Then the follow-up will come and smack them in the gob and go from there. And also, say if they block the whole time, you're still safe, and safe with some pushback created here, as you can see. So I wouldn't suggest you go for the follow-up every time you're blocked, right? You do want them to try to take the turn, otherwise not much point to this follow-up. But still, it is interesting, and for a basic quick hit confirm string, it's just pretty dang good, and like, it works. I can't say anything else than that. It just works. Now, the first normal I want to talk about to get its own section here is Stand 2. So Stand 2, he busts out the lantern and just big old blue energy and just, you know, go from there, right? And if that was the only thing to talk about, then it wouldn't get its own section. So I want you to pay special attention here to Kollector himself when he does this move. You see how he kind of hunkers down, like hunches down and does the move? That matters a lot because this makes it one of the best anti-air moves in the game. Because when he hunkers down, that's like real. Like he himself is actually lowering himself to the ground like a crouch would, right? Now you can't do it last possible second, as you see here. If I do it way too late on purpose, I will still get smacked, right? As you can see there. But still, as long as your reflexes are, you know, halfway decent, and also gets easier the further you are away. This is just kind of point blank, and even then, you know, I can still be pretty slow and still get it, right? It's just really good, and the thing that makes it really good, besides, you know, obviously it stops jumps pretty well, is, yo, you can go and get like combos from this, right? Like this is very good for just damage and stuff, you know. Boom, that's 33% for stopping a jump, right? That's not some small baby conversion. That's like actual real damage for converting. And of course, say you didn't have the bar, this has its own follow-up and also has a crushing blow attached to it. And the crushing blow, the only caveat is you have to hit him as a counter or a punish. And if you're stopping their jump, it's definitely going to be counter. And so even if you didn't have any bar to spend, you still get 27%. It is just so good. And like, keep in mind too, with his uppercut, he's already had one of the better uppercuts in the game when it comes to anti-airs. So these two things combined, Stand 2 and his uppercut, means he is one of the most difficult characters to jump up on. Now, just like many characters, his uppercut is 10 frames. But when he does his uppercut, he still stays fairly low to the ground. The issue with many uppercuts in this game is when they stand up to do their uppercut before the frames take over, the active frames take over, and the moves actually can hit the enemy, is they stand up super tall. Like, they stand up as tall as they can do, then the move goes live, right? And if you stand up as tall as you can, then you're just going to get smacked by the kick anyways before your move goes live, as long as they did it, you know, kind of like with a, you know, decent jump in timing. And like, they waited like last possible second, did something like that, and sure, you'll win, right? But if they try to hit you at the top of your head, you're gonna lose. A lot of characters down to their uppercuts are actually bad anti-airs because of this, because a lot of characters with the better jump ins, you know, Baraka, Garrus, all that kind of stuff, when they try to jump and they're trying to aim at, you know, your tip of your head, you're gonna actually uppercut into their jump kick and get smacked. But the uppercut, as well as the Stand 2 we mentioned, both of them stay low to the ground, so it's just a lot better against your traditional average jump in than most anti-air options. So it's really fantastic. Now, the uppercut, you know, obviously not going to get the big 30% damage conversion, right? But still, uppercuts are 14%. That's really good. And if you do get them at the peak of a jump, you can actually convert like that. Now, that's going to be difficult sometimes, as they have to be basically on top of you at the peak of the jump when you uppercut them, and then you smack them with the down one, and you convert into the shotel. So that is another option you have. So Kollector as a whole, I'm not going to say jumping attacks are never going to hit you or nothing like that, but your options, as long as you're on the ball and your reactions are on point, your options to deal with jumps are much better than the average character. Okay, so now let's talk back to 3. This guy right here. Now, this is potentially one of the, if not the most important string you got. And now I know it don't look like too much here. It is mid-low, just so you know, and this is the best conversion you're going to get off it. Especially, like, if you exit, there you go, you're going to get 22%, right? So it's not a fancy 30+% damage combo, but what makes it so important is the back 2 part, because it's a 10-frame mid. Now, if you play any amount of this game, you see people complaining like, oh, we need fast mids, you need fast mids, or like all that kind of stuff. Well, one, you don't. You don't need fast mids. You do need something fast, but not necessarily a fast mid, but still, hey, he's got a fast mid, right? So Kollector has the thing a lot of people want. So it's not a 9-framer, so it's not like Jackie or Cassie with the 9-framers, but still 10 frames, 1 frame off. So there's so many situations like, if you're fighting the guy just mashing down 1 all day long, you block 1, immediately do this, you're going to win. And that's the real value of this move. And once again, you can convert to Shodel. It's not big, but one thing that's also a little bit of a bonus is EX Shodel. You do get to choose which side you land on. So if you want to switch sides, you can switch sides, or you can stay the same side, so that's really good for positioning. Now, just so you know, it is quote-unquote unsafe on block and -8. So technically a 7-frame could punish, except I'm point blank here. Now look at the distance we're at. So no 7-frame move is punishing this. So if you only look at the numbers, and some people do unfortunately, if you only look at the numbers, you would say it's unsafe on block, but due to the distance it creates, it's completely safe. Also, it does have a follow-up here, which is back 2, 3, 3. And for the most part, I'm not going to say you should never remember this exists, but hey, yeah, it's not that important. It doesn't really stagger out enough that the enemy's going to be really interested in, like, you know, attacking right away, and you smack them with this instead. If it came out a little bit slower, it'd be more valuable in that regard, because it make them think it's their turn, but since it happens very quickly, it's not as valuable. Also, it does leave you -16, which some characters can punish at this distance, versus the very safe -8 it leaves you at. Also, if you're playing a matchup where the character has some shorter range moves, doing this, backing up, and then punishing whatever they're going to do is a very valid tactic. Also, if someone's like really aggressive, or they just need that little bit extra space to move in, one thing actually works very well, which I wouldn't recommend you do every time, but it does work very well. You do this, and then you just immediately do it again. And they'll walk into it and get smacked the second time around. So yes, it's not the source of the biggest damage you're ever going to get, but what it is a reliable, basically 22% if you want to spend the bar, every single time you get it, plus, you know, a little bit of positioning, all that fun stuff, off a 10-frame mid that's safe on block, and a lot of people wish they had that. So the patch, Kollector got a lot of changes, and I'd say indebatably the biggest change was to 443, this guy here. So before, that was all you were ever going to get. It was that 12% if it hit. And you know what? You still took it. You still took it, because the range on stand 4 is a very big, and more than most of the cast can deal with, especially because it's at 14 frames, and a lot of people who have comparable moves that can reach this far are in like the 17 to 22 frame range, right? So it's a lot faster than what other characters have for similar moves. So once again, before, you took it, and you were happy to get your 12%, because, you know, haha, I hit you from far away, right? But now you actually get a full combo. Like, now you don't settle for 12%. You get 32 or more, or you get a setup, when we'll talk about those setups later, right? It's fantastic. Now, on top of that, like, that's just from far range. Like, if you get your hit confirm and all that fun stuff, now it leads to, like, you know, greater combo damage than he ever had before, because you can also do something like this. Before, he'd be looking at, you know, not 30% at all. It'd still be below 30, right? So, it ups his damage across the board. So, this is basically his best spacing and footsie tool. And now you get a full combo from it, right? And, of course, if you manage to hit him a little closer, you get a better combo. That's great. Well, check out the combo video if you want to see that stuff, right? So now that it changed, I do want to warn you against a couple of things. So first and foremost, if it's blocked, you know, oh well, blocked, you know, in most ranges it's going to leave you -10. And -10 from this far away, it's not that big of a deal. It really, really isn't. It might as well be 0 as far, like, as long as you take that mindset, it might as well be 0. Because yeah, If you were right here, you lost your turn, but you're this far away, and most of the cast could not even dare touch you after that, so you can just kind of walk out and just do whatever you want, right? Now before 4-4-3, you couldn't do the whole string on block. Like if you did this and you entered 4-4-3, you would just get the first 2 hits and the third hit would not come out. Now it does come out on block. And with that said, that's -20. So here, -10, we're laughing, right? And -9 if you hit on the last active frame. We're laughing at this distance, right? But -20 this far away, a lot of characters can punish that. That is punishable distance. So when you are doing this combo, please, please, please hit confirm. Just do 4-4. And if you see the hit, then yes. You see that hit, you absolutely go 4-4. Oh, cool, hit 3, then combo, right? But don't do all 3 hits by itself. You are asking to get destroyed, basically. But yeah, -20 from that far away, man, that most of the cast can pretty easily deal with that. That is not an issue for a lot of the cast. So please watch out. Please hit confirm the combo. But other than that, just space. Like, this is a range that, frankly, most characters can't contest. And the few characters that could, like, say, Devora, she could contest with 4-2-2, right? Her 4-2-2 is just a lot slower than this, right? So you still have the range advantage and the speed advantage as well. Because if she tries to contest at that range, you're going to win. So he's in a very unique position where he has an extraordinarily long-range normal that is now a full combo hit-confirmable starter that is also faster than anyone else who has a comparable thing. The only thing you could possibly knock it for is, yes, it is indeed a high, but it's not like at this distance they're going to be like, oh, cool, neutral duck uppercut. Because no, they're not close enough. It can't possibly hit, right? So it being a high, that's fine. If they duck, oh well. It's not the second hit they're not going to duck. So there you go, right? It's not like they really can punish you by neutral ducking it from, you know, the range you actually want to use it at. And if they could, that means they're at a range you shouldn't be hitting the button. So that's on you, really, honestly, at that point. But yeah, 4-4-3 is so good. 4-4-3 is just amazing. It's one of the biggest lifebloods of the character. It lets him, along with so many of the other tools, as we went over earlier in the video, like 4-2-2, 4-1-2, 4-4. Like, he already has some of the best, like, range neutral stuff in the game anyways, and this is just the icing on the cake. As he gets so much damage off it now, when before he got, like, nothing. And now he actually gets real chunks of damage off it, and he also gets real setups off it, which we'll talk about later. And it's just a centerpiece and crown jewel of his moveset. So now let's go back to the back in the pack variation. Let's talk the command grab again here. So the command grab, not much to say about it other than what's obvious. You know, it does this damage, it's a grab, it's a mid, so you can't duck under it, all that fun stuff. And there is an option select attached to it. Now, this option select is universal. I have made a video about it in the past. But it is a lot stronger with mid-hitting command grabs, i.e. ones you cannot duck under, than a regular command grab. And I figure, hey, let's show you how to do it. So right now I have the enemy set to block random combo. So it means basically every time you hit them, they're randomly going to block or they're randomly not going to block. I have no idea which one it's going to be. Just sometimes they'll block the moves and sometimes they won't block the moves. And what I'm going to do after from this situation here is I'm just going to go down 1. And when the move actually connects, I will not go for the command grab because it would whiff. And when the move is blocked, I will go for command grab and it'll become a tick throw. I see right there. That's one example. Another example. Didn't come out. Came out. Came out. Didn't come out. Didn't come out. Did come out. Did come out on block. Did come out on block. Didn't come out on hit. Did come out on block. So am I doing some sort of wizardry here? Can I see the frames themselves and I can just tell? No, I have no idea. I legit don't know. All it is strictly a timing thing. Now, it is a timing thing you're going to have to practice. I am sorry to say there's no easy way out. You're going to have to practice timing on this. But it's literally as simple as this. You just hit your down 1, and the down 1 also uses up the down motion because the motion is down, back, forward, and then 3, right? Do your command grab. So the down 1 counts as the down motion, and then you just hit back, forward, 3. And if you do it with the right timing, it'll always come in on block. As you can see right there. Getting it every time on block. And if you do it on a whiff, it just won't come out. Once again, it's a practicing. You can't do it too fast. You can't do it too slow. It's difficult to describe because I've tried to describe it to other people. But as you can just see, just go by the timing of my inputs. So I'm hitting down 1, and it's the smallest of delays, and then going for back forward 3 here. And when it works great. And when it doesn't work because they get hit, hey, it saved your life, right? Because if you hit them and fastest possible timing, go for it, that's punish territory for a lot of characters. They will be able to punish you, right? So just down 1, small delay, back forward 3, and you'll always get the best of the 2 options. So now let's talk about some of the trickier stuff here. I want to talk about restands and resets. So a lot of this is thanks to Kollector's just bola attack, right? So the EX bola, it leaves you standing, and it doesn't matter where in the combo you got hit, it leaves you standing. So if I catch you like at this distance here, and I got you, I'm 5 hits in, I got 18% already, and you're restanded, right? So that's the basis we're going to go from here. So it is better to do what I'm about to show you guys in all the versions of this I'm going to show you. Generally off a 4-4-3 combo versus a normal hit confirm. As a normal hit confirm here, if you're going to go for your restand or reset here, when the bola is the restand, you just don't have as much damage, right? Like, it might be just smarter to go for the regular combo and cash out, because the reward you got if you try to get tricky would be close to just you taking your damage anyways. 4-4-3. Before we do anything, we can get 22%, right? Now, that's a much better building block to go from. Now, you can do it whenever you want, so don't let me stop you on that one, right? But I find after the patch, it's certainly a lot better if you get this, as you have some decent amount of damage to work from before you try to cash out on your gimmick, and then go from there. So, but let's just start right from the start, right? So let's start here at the most basic building block of your resets, and that's forward 1. So forward 1 is a 13 frame low, and in this regard, while you can use it raw in terms of like stagger pressure, so you can go like this and then try to steal another turn or just try to throw them and all kinds of stuff, we're going to use it in the context of you got your combo and you got your EX bola and the restand. So after you successfully hit your forward 1, you are at 10 frames of advantage. Also, you might notice here, it doesn't really push them back in any way. Like a lot of moves, if you smack them, they'll move backwards or, a little bit out of the way. They stay in place after a successful forward 1. And that's the building block to everything. So they stay in place and you have 10 frames of advantage. So what can you do from there? So here we are, we're 24% in, and we decided to cut the combo short. So we got 24%, awesome, great, fantastic. But now we cut it short and now we're at 10 frames of advantage. So let's just say, since we're at 10 frames advantage, hey, you know what else is 10 frames? Your throw. So let's just try and throw them. So at that point, if you already got 24 and you get another 14, hey, that's at 38% total damage. So it's more than you would have got if you completed the combo in and of itself, right? So that's great. Now also, let's look at a different way here. So say you're scared they're going to jump or neutral duck you or whatever, right? Because obviously you can just neutral duck the throw, or you can just jump and smack them in the noggin, right? So let's use our other basis after this forward 1, and let's go for forward 2-2. So forward 2-2 is safe on block, so if they do block, hey, whatever, you're -5, that's fine, you can live with that. And if they neutral duck or jump, because if they jump forward 2-2, it'll always hit no matter what. You'll always get both hits and you're always able to convert. Unlike, say, forward 1-2, which does do more damage, but if they jump, you're gonna lose the combo. So don't use that, use forward 2-2. So in either situation, if they neutral duck your move here, or they jump, you do forward 2-2, and you successfully hit, hey, back in the blender, let's go, it's combo time again, right? So you can get 30+% from that, or you can choose to be, a little tricky, right? And then just stand, reset them again, and go from there. Now, in that situation, since you do your EX bola early on, I would suggest you just cash out. So you can see here, that's a very healthy amount of damage, almost 33% right there. So if you cashed out before on your initial hit here, you did forward 1 to do the reset, and you caught them either trying to jump or trying to duck because they're scared of the throw, and you go for this, that 33% you have plus the original 24, that's 57% basically combined off your standing reset here, off the forward 1, and that's a lot of damage, in one quick sequence. That's over half their life, right? That is not nothing. That is not chump change. And in that regard, since, once again, after EX bola, they're standing, there's no wake-up possible, you do this, that is effectively a 50-50 in that way. So the throw is basically the option you have to do to make them respect everything else. And the throw option, honestly, while it is more damage than if you did your combo in full, it's not that much more damage. But if you do this, it builds a threat of them wanting to duck or jump or whatever, and then 4-2-2. No matter which of the two options they get, once again, even if they jump, unlike many other hit confirmed strings, even if they jump, you'll get both hits and you can still get EX Bola. It hits them in the air, so that's fantastic, right? And that builds the big reset into a lot of extra damage. Of course, not to say the least of which, you have crushing blows on both your throws, right? So also, once again, if you do get the crushing blow, that's over 50% right there as well. So very quick sequence. They got to guess right away, throw or hit, and the world's your oyster in that regard. A very, 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 very strong setup. Now, another very similar style reset you can work with here is off back 3. This whole setup's going to be more nuanced. It is both trickier in your options and also trickier to do just execution-wise versus just hitting one button, right? But off back 3, you want to cancel the first hit into your Bola. This guy right here. And from the Bola, you can cancel the Bola, and then we're still advantage. So you see here, I do back 3, I do my Bola cancel, and I am 7 frames hit advantage still after the whole thing, right? So it is very much in your favor, even though you got the hit. So you can do the same similar style setup here. And we still cash out. It does a little bit more damage too. Forward 1 only does 3%. The first hit of back 3 does 5%. So same style of setup here, but you get a little bit more damage. So off this, hey, you can still threaten throw. You're still right beside the enemy, right? So you can still threaten all that kind of stuff you did before. You can still threaten 4-2-2, and it still works the same way, neutral, duck, or jump. The one thing I'll say, because you're just a little bit less frame advantage in the other setup, is if they do try to jump, and if you go for 4-2-2 and you're a bit slow, at that point, yes, you can screw up, and they can follow out of the combo. Now, if your timing's good, there's no issue, so don't worry about that. If your timing's good, there is no issue, but you do got to be on the ball on this one, right? So, but other than that, it's basically the same effective mix. They still can't hit buttons because you're 7 frames advantage. And you do more damage. Once again, it's just trickier. Also has the extra layer of you can do this here. And you can just hold it, right? And then threaten with the actual Bola. And this is actually good for beating fatal blows as well. Because Bola, if they attempt to go for a fatal, going for 4-2-2 will actually lose in that regard if they go for a fatal because there is less frame advantage. But if you do this, just rock and hold it for a second and let chuck, you will beat a fatal blow. So it's a little more nuanced in that way, but it's basically a slightly more damaging, slightly more complex version of the base forward 1 reset that we showed you earlier. Now, with these ideas of resets and restands in mind, now we're going to move into variation-specific stuff here. So let's talk about the spare change variation here, the one with the grenades. And the grenades are what we're going to be using here. So grenades, if you're grounded, they leave you standing, right? They don't knock you down like many other projectiles. You're not going to get knocked on the ground. You're not going to get a roll option. You're not going to get a wake up. You just get the hit, knockback stuff, and we just go for it, right? So once again here, we're going to use that in our combo. So right there, we did the usual combo, but we ended here with stand 3 into grenade. And stand 3 into grenade leaves them standing, and also, as you can see here, a nice little chunk of hit advantage. As you can see right here, 18 frames of hit advantage. So after that, what we can do is quick little dash, cancel, and do 4-2-2, and it's inescapable. So if they let go of block, they try to jump, they try to backdash, any of that kind of fun stuff, you're gonna get smacked. And that's their building block of our offense right there. Because you gotta put the fear of God into them from this, and once it's established, you can start getting away with a lot of stupid stuff, like walking forward and doing dash with mini walk forward and throw them. So once again, this is inescapable. No way out. The only way out is if you horrifically space it and you were like did that at like max range and this, and like you shouldn't have anyways because you're jumping. You jumped at him after the X-Bola. So if it's inescapable, basically it's your fault and you space it somehow incorrectly. You do it the right way, it always works fine. Now that said, that's not even the only option we have. So basically now, instead of the stand 3 in the grenade, what we did is forward 4 into the grenade. So forward 4 does more damage, And the one thing here is if we look at the enemy, we can see here, that's the distance they get knocked at that point. If we do 4-4, they are knocked back further, right? So the dash forward 4-2-2 thing is now, it's not an option. But what we can do after this is dash forward and stand 4-4. And it's much the same deal. If they do anything other than block, they try to jump, they try to backdash, they will get hit. Now, if they do jump, you're not going to get much of a conversion. You're going to hit them with 4-4. And sometimes on weird hitboxes, you might only get stand 4 and the other miss, but still that's 5%, right? But they have to just sit and like it. And this is kind of the through here of everything we're talking about here, is for both these grenade restands, they have to sit and like it. That's the end of it, right? If you choose to attack, if they do anything other than just accept it and block, you are going to smack them. Now, with the 4-4 one here, we obviously don't have the benefit of the other one here, 4-2-2, of just going forward and throwing them, unless they're really paralyzed and we can like get a double dash in there and chuck them. But then at that point, you can just do stuff like, you know, now that I know you're going to block, I can do like 1-4 into a grenade and get a nice little bit of chip, or I can just toss a puddle at your feet and let you burn, that kind of stuff because you're too busy blocking. It's not as heavily mix-up base, but still it keeps the pressure on no matter what you do. And these are fantastic options only afforded to us thanks to the grenade in the spare change variation. So the back in the pack variation, it can do all the stuff we mentioned that was universal, and that's fantastic and that's great. And it can do basically a slightly worse version of what spare change can do. So by using your teleport after forward 4, this guy here, you can switch sides, obviously. You have to switch sides. And you still have a little bit of frame advantage. Now, it's only 3. A far cry from, like, you know, the plus 20 or whatever the grenades give you, right? But it is 3, and you're in their face, so you can do stuff. Now, since it's only 3, the stuff you can do is limited. Basically, at that point, you want to do back 2-3, because back 2-3 is your fastest mid. And since it is 3 frames advantage, you can basically enforce your will on that point, unless they have a 6-framer. If they have a 6-framer, you're kind of screwed and you have to down one them or something. But that's basically to enforce your will to the point where once you do it, you want to force them to block, and once they are finally forced to block, then you can go for the throw, right? So while it's not as nuanced as some of the other ones we went over, frame advantage after getting, you know, a partial combo is still frame advantage on a standing foe, right? It is still advantageous to have, even if it's not as strong as some of the other ones we've shown, but it is an option for back in the pack. So the last thing I want to talk about here before we get to the main general game plan section is just the vial, the DOT, puddle, whatever you want to call it, right? The one thing that a lot of people don't seem to realize about this is it has a lot of recovery. Like, I'm holding up here after I'm doing it, and you can see how long it takes me to jump. And I see people do something crazy like this sometimes, and they get away with it too. Like, yeah, you're plus after doing that, but you're not that plus. And then you go for a vial, and then they can try to attack. When the act of doing the vial after the Shodal Fury is actually punishable itself, right? So don't do stuff like that. When you do it, you want to be further back. Like, you know, say if you get a bowling, right? You can do it from there. Also, keep in mind, from absolute full screen, the far version won't hit. So what you want to do is like a jump, then toss it, and then you'll get it. But that'll give you plenty of a frame advantage to work with and all that fun stuff. Or if you hit a grenade, then that's plenty of time. You can hit them during the recovery. These are good situations to do it. Also, anytime they throw a projectile, it's very easy for you to jump over it and just chuck it. And that is safe as safe can be. Now, you want to hit the top of your jump. If you do it like at this distance, you know, like off a hop or something, the projectile will still hit you in the feet. You're going to get knocked out and you'll get no real bonus or benefit out of it, right? But this is what you want to be doing, is chucking from here. From here, it's nice and safe, and you don't have to worry about too much. And then you can just burn them out and harass them. That's the main thing, and that's one thing I want to talk about right there. So, from a full screen DOT, you can chuck your grenade and set off the explosion. And from there, you can just follow it up. Now, from full screen, it's difficult to do much more than this here. And you're going to have to assume that you knew it was going to hit. But then again, if you chuck your grenade, you'd still be plus if they block, so whatever. It's not too bad, right? But that is an option. So every time you have a DOT out, the DOT, if you chuck a grenade into it, it will explode and launch them. And then you can get stuff from there. And this, of course, applies anywhere on screen. It doesn't just apply it up close. So if I have it like right here somehow and I manage to space it correctly and I get that, and from there you can get a full combo. And this is that simple. The combo part's not hard. And you see the damage is very respectable as well, right? But it's truly, honestly, realistically difficult to on purpose set up the DOT puddle explosion and go from there, right? What you can do is just threaten with it. You're going to want to toss a lot of grenades and spare change anyways. That's always going to be a fact of life. It's going to be one of your most used moves. So when you have that puddle out, just, hey, be a little more liberal and see if you can catch them. And that's really all there needs to be said about that. Now let's talk about the generalized game plan. And to start off first, I do want to mention a weakness of the character. Is, he doesn't have the fast buttons. Like, stand 1's 8 frames, down 1, oh yeah, it's also 8 frames, down 3, 9 frames, down 4, 9 frames. He doesn't have a quick button. Like, there's no 7-framer, let alone a 6-framer. And that certainly is not ideal, to be sure. It's not ideal. Now, he does have a 10-frame mid, and 10-frame mid that is safe on block and is hit confirmable into a small combo, right? So, there's obviously a lot of benefits, right? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. And also all the stuff we covered earlier in the guide. But that is a key weakness of the character, just so you know. So if you're desperate for quick buttons, Kollector is not the character for you. Another thing to note, a lot of characters, especially post-patch, down 3 into a jail is like a very big deal, and he can certainly do that. Like, his down 3 is plus 10, which means it does jail into stand 1-3, just so you know. But down 4 is generally the better move. So down 4 is literally just as fast as down 3. They're both 9-framers. They both have comparable range. Down 4 obviously does 3% instead of a single 1% damage, and is also 17 frames of advantage on hit, meaning it's very easy just to like do this quick walk forward here and just pressure it forward 4-4 and just that kind of stuff. So pound for pound, down 4 is a much more useful move than your crouching 3, and also it jails into a lot better stuff in the corner as well. Now, one of the biggest and best things to say about Kollector, if I'm trying to sell you on the character, is he's just an amazing neutral character. Now, if that's what you're looking for, like his rushdown, his gimmicks, not so strong as some of the other characters in the game, but when it just comes to like walking back and forth and doing stuff, man, he's so good. Once again, this is helped by the spare change variation, which I think is almost strictly better than back in the pack, because grenades and DOTs give him pressure that simply can't be matched in back in the pack. But just stuff like 4-4, once again here, 4-4, really good. And so many really good hit confirm normals in this game, which he has a lot of, like 4-1-2, 4-2-2, all that kind of stuff. So much in this game moves you forward, right? So not only you're negative like closer to them than when you started, and so you actually really want to make sure you don't do anything too crazy, right? And with Kollector, like stuff like 4-4, no, dude. Like he's playing Street Fighter, basically, right? Once again, he has a wide variety of normals to help, and once again, too, forward 4 instead of 4-4. And I know forward 4 and 4-4 sound like the same freaking thing, and I'm sorry, I probably said it a million times in this video, but like it's another thing that keeps him perfectly still, right? So he can just kind of hunker down and just like not move forward and get all the benefits of the hit, and if it gets blocked, whatever, right? It's very difficult to jump on him. Like, so much of what he has lends to himself to being one of the most difficult characters to like do crazy stuff against. If you just want to sit and space and just walk and wait and all that kind of stuff, he's absolutely one of the best picks for you, because everything in his moveset, from just, his good hit confirm normals that have a lot more range than the average character, that are also fairly quick, because 4-2 and 4-1 are both 13-frame starters. His 14-frame stand 4, which has way more range than both those, and now leads to full combos as well, which is fantastic. The fact that, once again, as we just said, it's a difficult jump, all these things lead to one beautiful package of Kollector can just sit and wait and just see what you're gonna do. He can just walk backwards comfortably. If you jump, it's cool to smoke you out of the air. If you want to walk forward and challenge him, he can snipe you with stand 4. Or, if he feels the pressure, you can walk off and head back 3. And you can just run into it and just, smack yourself in the gob, right? All of his things lend to himself to a more defensive playstyle, while he still has, some of the offensive gimmicks and pressure with like forward 1, all that kind of stuff, which we had earlier in the guide. He's a good package that can do most of the things in the game you want to do. His damage now after the patch is much better than it was before. And man, oh man, I'm harping on this, I know, but because I want to beat it into your head, that his control of the neutral is just so much better than most characters in this game. But yeah, if I haven't hammered home the point yet, the general game plan for Kollector is just to play neutral, play footsies, because he's better at it than most other characters. Also, once again, spare change affords him to do a lot of weird stuff a lot of the other characters in the game can't do, and attack from angles and far away the other characters just simply can't attack from and do stuff like that, right? So at far range, he can do wacky stuff. He's an amazing counter zoner. He's also a really good counter zoner and back in the pack as well, because he does have the teleport. But just stuff like this, if you're tossing regular fireballs and I'm tossing this up in the air, you know, nice and safe from you, and any fireballs you can throw at me, hey, I'm gonna win, right? So he also wins a lot of zoning exchanges against a lot of characters. He also has weird counter zoning where he wants to get hit out of Bola, so you get stuck in the EX version for free, and then toss you puddles that you have to burn in, and then toss more weird crap your way, right? He's very strong, very good. Don't believe a single person that says he's a bad character, because he's not. And even before the buffs, he still wasn't bad. He was just misunderstood. So yeah, Kollector, Kollector is good, y'all. So yeah, that's the long and short of this guide. Kollector's got a lot of stuff. He's a very interesting character. One of the most underrepresented characters in the game, if not the single most underrepresented character in the game. A lot of people don't really know what he does, other than, you know, he swings the ball and he's got the big boot, right? You know, on this string, which everyone does, right? A lot of people don't know what he's capable of, and in that respect, I hope this video showed you a lot of what he's capable of, because this character's got stuff. Now, is he, you know, Jackie? Is he Garrus? No, he's not these characters, right? But he's still a lot better than anyone gives him credit for, and in that, I hope I showed you what's up. Anyways, that's it for me. So, thank you very much for watching. I hope this video has found you well. Go out and play some Mortal Kombat.